Did not the great God declare, through the prophet Abbess, that there is no greater and more honourable sacrifice than one own's life for the God? Indeed he did, said Friet. He couldn't help recalling that Abbess had been a bishop in the citadel for 50 years before the great God had chosen him. Screaming enemies had never come at him with a sword. He never looked into the eyes of someone who'd wished him dead. Well, no, of course, he had, all the time. Because, of course, the church had its politics. But at least they hadn't been holding the means to that end in their hands at the time. To die gloriously for one's faith is a noble thing, Druna intoned, as if reading the words of an internal notice board. So the prophets tell us, Frit said miserably. The great God moved in mysterious ways, he knew, undoubtedly. He chose his prophets, but it seemed as if he had to be helped. Perhaps he was too busy to choose for himself. There seemed to be a lot more meetings, a lot more nodding, a lot more exchanging of glances, even during the services in the great temple. Certainly there was a glow about young Vorbis, how easy it was to slip from one thought to the other. There was a man touched by destiny. A tiny part of it, the part that had lived much of its life in tents and been shot at quite a lot, and had been in the middle of meles, where you could just as easily be killed by an ally as an enemy, added, or at least by something. It was a part of him that was due to spend all the eternities and all the hells, but it had already had a lot of practice. You know, I travelled a lot when I was younger, he said. I have often heard you talk most interestingly of your travels in heathen lands, said Druna politely. Often bells are mentioned. Did I ever tell you about the Brown Islands? Out beyond the end of the world, said Druna. I remember where bread grows on trees and young women find little white balls in oysters. They die for them, you said, while wearing not a stick. Something else I remember, said Frit. It was a lonely memory, out here with nothing but scrubland under a purple sky. The sea is strong there. There are big waves, much bigger than the ones in the Circle Sea, you understand. And the men paddle out beyond them to fish on strange planks of wood. And when they wish to return to shore, they wait for a wave, and then they stand up on the wave, and it carries them all the way to the beach. I like the story about the young women swimming best, said Druna. Sometimes there are very big waves, said Frit, ignoring him. Nothing would stop them, but if you ride them, you don't drown. That is something I have learned. Druna caught the glint in his eye. Ah, he said, nodding. How wonderful of the great God to put such instructive examples in our path. The trick is judged the strength of the wave. Set free it and ride it. What happens to those who don't? They drown. Often, some of the waves are very big. Such is often the nature of waves, I understand. The eagle was still circling. If it had understood anything, then it wasn't showing it. Useful facts to bear in mind, said Druna with sudden brightness. If ever one should find oneself in heathen parts. Indeed. From prayer towers up and down the contours of the citadel, the deacons chanted the duties of the hour. Brothers should have been in class, but the tutor priests weren't too strict with him. After all, he'd arrived word perfect in every book of the Sepulchre and knew all the prayers and hymns off by heart, thanks to grandmother. They probably assumed he was being useful, usefully doing something no one else wanted to do.